Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could join us again on this beautiful Sunday. We have 2 songs again, as well as a message. We have 1 new song later. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and begin. You make the darkness run and hide. You bring the broken back to life. Only you can, only you can. You set me free from every chain. You fill my heart with songs of praise. Only you can, only you can. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you can, only you can. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. You move me, your freedom is consuming. I feel it rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling, every beat is calling out your name. So the next song we're going to do is Highlands. We've been wanting to do this for you guys for a while, and we were going to do it before all of this started happening. It has a lot of lyrics in it, and pay attention to it because they're some of the most powerful lyrics that I've ever heard. I hope you like the song, so let's go ahead and sing it. Oh, how high would I climb mountains if the mountains were where you hide? Oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you grace the other side. Oh, how long have I chased rivers from lowly seas to where they rise, against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. 'Cause in the highlands and the heartache, you're neither more or less inclined. I would search and stop at nothing. You're just not that hard to find. Ooh, oh, I will praise you on the mountains. I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows. no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, 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 how far beneath your glory does your kindness extend the path, from where your feet rest on the sunrise to where you sweep the sinner's path. And oh, how fast would you come running if just to shadow me through the night, trace my steps through all my failure and walk me out the other side. For who could dare ascend that mountain, that valleyed hill called Calvary, but for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. Whoa, I will praise you on the mountains, I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows, less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh, whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent. Whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing through the shadows my song of ascent, my song of ascent. Oh, 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 from the gravest of all valleys come the pastures we call grace, a mighty river flowing upward from a deep but empty grave. Whoa, I will praise you on the mountain, I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. I will praise you in the valleys all the same. No less God within the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache all the same. Oh, oh, oh.
Hi guys, welcome back to another week of 4FIVE6 here online. It is July 12th, which is crazier than last week when it was July 5th. I don't know. Time is weird to me. But anyways, super glad that you guys have come back and you're going to watch another really cool message. We're getting towards the end of the book of Luke, which is kind of crazy. I feel like we've been living in this for a really long time, and here we are with I only have 2 more lessons. So yeah, we're gonna jump right back in. Today we're gonna talk about getting mad. So I'm curious how you guys respond when someone makes you mad. Do you lash out? Do you turn the other cheek oh, it's okay? Do you go and complain about that person or that situation to someone else? I used to lash out and get really upset. I used to be super hurt by things people said or by things people didn't say that I wanted them to say. And I would let the hurt feelings just kind of fester till I couldn't contain it anymore. And then I'd lash out. I would be short with people. I'd get really upset. Now, this was like less than a year ago, like Christmas time, I think. January. Yeah, so like really was not that long ago. And I've grown a lot since then, I think. I've learned how to deal with my feelings and emotions and to not let things get to me as much. I had this friend who, he sat down with me and he told me that I was acting really poorly and that it wasn't good. He called me out on the ways that I wasn't being Christ to other people. So I started to change. I made a decision that day that I wouldn't let these things get to me like they were. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm always doing the right thing or I'm always reacting the right way, but I recognize it sooner and it happens less and less. So in our story today, like I had said, Jesus has the perfect response, because he's Jesus, to people who are hurting him, both physically and emotionally. So open up your Bibles. We're going to be in Luke 22, verse 66, and then we're going to read through probably about half of chapter 23. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. Okay, this is the word of the Lord. As soon as it was day, the elders of the people, both chief priests and scribes, came together and led him into their council, saying, "If you're the Christ, tell us." But Jesus said to them, "If I tell you, you'll by no means believe. And if I also ask you, you'll by no means answer me or let me go. Hereafter, the Son of Man will sit at the right hand of the throne of God." Then they all said, "Are you then the Son of God?" Jesus said to them, "You rightly say that I am." They said, "What further testimony do we need? For we've heard it ourselves from his own mouth." Then, this is chapter 23, the whole multitude, the chief priests and the scribes that were with Jesus, arose and led him to Pilate. So Pilate is the governor over Jerusalem at the time. They began to accuse Jesus, saying, "We found this fellow perverting the nation, forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king." Then Pilate asked Jesus, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered him and said, "It is as you say." So Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no fault in this man." But they were the more fierce, saying, "He stirs up the people. He teaches all throughout Judea, beginning from Galilee, right here to this place." When Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked the man if he were a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, so Herod's like another guy over another town, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. Now, when Herod saw Jesus, he was exceedingly glad, for he desired for a long time to see him, because he had heard many things about him. He hoped to see some miracle done by Jesus. Then he questioned Jesus with many words, and he answered him nothing. The chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. Then Herod, with his men of war, treated him with contempt and mocked him. They arrayed him in a gorgeous robe and sent him back to Pilate. That very day, Pilate and Herod became friends with each other, for previously they had been at enmity with one another. Then Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, said to them, "You've brought this man to me as one who misleads the people. And indeed, having examined him in your presence, I have found no fault in him concerning those things of which you accused him. No, neither did Herod, for I sent you back to him, and indeed nothing deserving of death has been done by him. I'll therefore release him, for it was necessary for him to release one of them at Passover." They all cried out at once, saying, "Away with this man! Release to us Barabbas!" He had been thrown into prison for a certain rebellion made in the city and for murder. Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them. But they shouted, saying, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Then he said to them the third time, "Why? What evil has he done? I found no reason for death in him. I'll therefore let him go." But they were insistent, demanding with loud voices that he be crucified. And the voices of these men and of the chief priests prevailed. So Pilate gave sentence that it should be as they requested. He released to them the one they requested, for whom rebellion and murder had been thrown into prison. But he delivered Jesus to their will. This is the word of the Lord. So last week we left off. I know that was a lot. I got to catch my breath for a second. So last week we left off, and Jesus was at the chief priest's house. And he had been arrested, and he had been betrayed by one of his own. And we pick up today, and Jesus has been brought to the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin is this religious ruling council in Jerusalem. You could kind of think of them like a city council. So it's a bunch of people, a bunch of like laymen who make up this one council, who like understand religious law really, really well. So they ask Jesus point blank if he's Christ, if he is the Messiah, the one promised who's the Son of God. This is the Pharisees and the scribes and the chief priests. This is their biggest issue with Jesus. They're trying to get this political charge to be brought against Jesus so that they can claim him as this revolutionary who's trying to overthrow the government and kick Caesar out and rule. And if they can prove that, they can have him killed. Because they don't like what he says, remember? All throughout the book of Luke. So I want you to listen to how Jesus replies. In verse 67, he says, "If I tell you, you'll by no means believe. And if I also ask you, you'll by no means answer me. Or you'll let me go. Hereafter the Son of Man will sit at the right hand of the throne of God." So Jesus, he doesn't try to lie his way out of it. He subtly questions in his response if they really want a fair trial. They're jumping through all the hoops and doing all the things and checking all the boxes. But he's like, do you really want that? Or have you already made up your mind about what you want from me? You want me dead, and I can see that. He then makes these three big claims in verse 69 when he says, the Son of Man, he's claiming to be the Son of Man, will sit on the right hand of the throne of God in heaven. So he claims that he is going to sit at the right hand of the throne of God, and that all of his authority under which he's done all of these things comes directly from God. And that his authority is greater than the people accusing him of things. He's claiming to be this Son of God in this like super roundabout way that isn't just like outright saying, this is who I am. Which that would be a crime if he were saying that and it weren't true. So the Sanhedrin, this city council, comes right out and asks Jesus, "Are you then the Son of God?" To which Jesus just replies, "You rightly say that I am." In other words, yup. And they don't like this. So they take him to Pilate. So if the Sanhedrin is like this city council, then Pilate is kind of like the mayor over this town. So he has a little bit more power, and he's a little bit more important, but he isn't like the top of the food chain. That's like Caesar in Rome. So Pilate asks Jesus the same question, and Jesus responds with another, "It is as you say." Yup. And he's now admitted twice to being the Son of God, which, again, if he says it and it's not true, it's blasphemy, which is a crime punishable by death. But Pilate doesn't want to have to deal with him. So when he finds out that he's a Galilean, he sends him to Herod. So Herod was kind of like the mayor-ish over Galilee. So that's where Jesus did most of his ministry and spent a lot of his time. And so Pilate's like, well, technically, you're not one of my people. So I'm going to send you off to Herod. He's in town, so like you go see him and he'll deal with you. I'm guessing Pilate probably understood that Jesus was someone important, whether he recognized he was the Son of God or not. I think he probably knew that he didn't want to have to be the one that killed this man or signed his death warrant. So Herod gets Jesus, and he's like super interested to meet him because he's like, oh, you've done all these really cool things. So like, do a cool thing. Jesus doesn't. So Herod finds nothing wrong with him. So sends him back to Pilate, and Pilate really doesn't want to kill this man. And so he knows he hasn't actually done anything wrong. So he feels bad for killing what he deems as an innocent man. But as we read, he gives into this peer pressure. The people keep calling out, crucify him, crucify him. And he's like, but I haven't found anything wrong with him. And the people are like, well, crucify him, we don't like him. And Pilate just keeps coming back and saying, I don't want to do that. But eventually, the people win out over Pilate. Now, it was a custom in the time of Jesus to release a prisoner during Passover, which is why he has to release one of them. He says that later on. And the people choose Barabbas. He's this murderer, and he started a riot, and he's this all-around not good person. But that's a story for another time, maybe Easter. We'll see. Now, anyways, here's what we learned from all of this. How Jesus chooses to respond to the people accusing him of awful, horrendous things matters. He responds with truth and grace and nothing more. And that truth that he speaks, he verbalizes, is the testimony that brings about his own conviction. It is the thing that signs the dotted line that says, yes, you're gonna die. His claim to be the Son of God, not once but twice, is the thing that seals his fate to die on a cross as a prisoner. Jesus testifies boldly to who he is, but he doesn't do it in a way that shames or rejects those who are accusing him. He doesn't push them down and tell them that they're flat out wrong. In my Bible, Jesus' words all throughout the Gospels are in red. Yours may be in blue, or yours may not be colored, but mine are in red. And all throughout the Gospels, there's lots of red writing, right? Jesus says a lot. That's how we learn from him. But here, towards the end of his life, people are beating him and mocking him and saying terrible things about him and to him. And they're all untrue. And the amount of red words is minimal. He doesn't say much. Jesus is so secure in who he is and what God has called him to do that he knows he doesn't have to defend himself in front of these people. He has completely and fully submitted to God's will, the will of the Father. What God the Father has spoken to him, he 150% says, I will do it and not back down. Contrast that with Peter, who we learned about last week, who cracked under the pressure of other people's opinions of him. He felt terrible afterwards because he turned his back on Jesus. And we learned from Peter how not to respond. And then we learned from Jesus how to respond. Jesus was secure in himself and in God, and that meant that he could stand up to those who opposed him. And he could do it boldly and without a fight. He didn't let the words get to him because he knew who he was, and he knew who God was, and he knew that God was bigger and better and stronger and more powerful than the words that these people were saying about him. And this is what I've learned over the past 9 months, I don't know, that the things that people say about me or the things that I think that they think about me, they don't matter as much as what God sees me as what God thinks about me and my actions. So I don't have to let them get to me anymore. So this is what I want to leave you guys with. And then we'll pray and you can go do whatever it is you want to do. Don't let the words or the thoughts of people dictate how you live your life for Jesus. Because Jesus wants you to be you. He doesn't want you to be someone else. He doesn't want you to try and be your best friend or your sibling. He wants you to be you. He made you the way that you are for a reason. And so when people say things about you or to you or behind your back that aren't true, keep moving forward. know that, be secure in who you are and who Jesus has made you to be, and be secure in the fact that God is bigger than the words that people say about you. Let's pray. God, thank you for this day and this time that we can come together and we can learn about you. I pray that we will go boldly and testify to who you are and what you've done in our lives. I pray that we'll be able to be who you have made us to be and nothing more. I pray that you'll give us all such a great week and that you'll bring us back here for another last look at the book of Luke. Pray this all in your name. Amen. All right. May the Lord bless you, keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and give you peace. I'll see you guys next week.